Hi foodies, today we're making some Hardough bread. Now this is definitely a favorite in Jamaica and other Caribbean countries too. We love our Hardough bread. So it's not as soft and flexible as a regular sandwich bread. You know, that's very thin and, you know, super fluffy and light. It's more dense, right? And as you can see, there are not many big holes in there. And it's just a strong bread that can really stand up to any spread, and it's really great for bread pudding. Okay, so this is what we're gonna be making today, guys. Let's get into it. So I am going to be using some honey today. I'm using melted butter, some instant quick rise yeast, salt, water, milk, and I'm using all-purpose flour and some canola oil. Okay, so that's what we're gonna be using to make that delicious hard dough bread. If you want to use your hands to mix the dough, that's perfectly fine, okay? But I have the mixer with the dough hook, so that's what I'm using. All right, so dough hook is attached, and in the bowl I'm gonna add milk. It's not warm, okay? It's just room temperature milk. I have my instant yeast, and I'm just going to be adding the honey. I should have stirred the yeast before I added the honey, but I was, you know, in a rush to get this thing done. So, but stir your yeast in, and then you can mix in the honey, okay? Mix it thoroughly. Then add melted butter. And we're going to be adding canola oil here. And all of my ingredients are at room temperature. We don't want warm ingredients because we're not trying to get that yeast growing rapidly. We don't want a lot of bubbles in this bread. So mix that with a spoon or with the mixer. Then you're going to be adding a combination of flour and salt. So I just mix the salt into the flour. We're adding it to the bowl while we mix at low speed so we don't cause a mess. Then when all the flour is in there, you can turn it up to medium, okay? You want to knead the dough for about 8 minutes because you want it to be nice and smooth, and you want it to be moving away from the sides of the bowl. Make sure you use a spatula to scrape down the ingredients while they mix because you want everything mixed together, okay? As you can see, the dough is soft, but it's not sticking to my fingers. So we can turn this out on a clean surface right now. I'm just going to be sprinkling on a little flour on my counter. And then we're going to be kneading this by hand, but not for long because the mixer did all the work. If you're doing this whole thing with your hands, then you will need to knead for longer than I do. So we're just going to form a rough ball. And now we're going to be kneading by hand for about 4 minutes just to get this perfect. So just do this motion. You're basically folding it into itself over and over again and turning. Just keep repeating that process. Any folding that you do, make sure you press to seal it, okay? We don't want any big folds in the bread because we want our slices to be even. And then after kneading it, just form your loaf, okay? Make sure the underside is smooth. If you need to roll it to smooth it out, do that. If you need to pinch it, do that. Any openings that are in the dough, pinch them, seal them, and just roll this into a loaf shape. There are other ways of forming your loaf. You could also roll it out flat like a cinnamon roll and roll it up. But honestly, for my Hardough bread, I don't worry too much about the shape being perfect. So I don't really bother with the cinnamon roll, you know, technique where you roll it flat and, you know, all of that. So just pinch the dough, and then you want the seal side down, okay? So remember, you have that beautiful smooth side on top, and then you have the underside, right? Make sure you tuck everything, smooth it out, and then that underside is going to go into your greased loaf pan. You want the smooth side up. So again, while you're rolling out that loaf, you have that underside that's not so pretty, right? And then you have the smooth side. that underside here that you see me smoothing out right now, that's gonna go into the greased loaf tin. I just sprayed it with some cooking spray. What I'm doing here is I'm just trying to shape it so that it will fit the loaf tin, because you want it to be around the same size, okay? Then you can press it if you want to. And we're going to be brushing on some oil. Then we'll cover this up and let it proof for about 35 minutes. So here goes. I'm just going to brush on the olive oil, and this is just to prevent it from drying out. You could use any oil that you have at home. Could be coconut oil, canola oil, olive oil, whatever you have. So once we brush on the oil, we're going to cover this up with a bowl cover. I love these because you can wash them and reuse them. Honestly, guys, this really looks like a shower cap, and these people just sell it and call it bowl cover. But this looks like a shower cap to me, okay? So let's put on our dough shower cap, our bowl cover, and let this rest for 35 minutes. So here's the dough, guys. After 35 minutes, it wasn't resting anywhere warm. It was at room temperature resting. And we're going to be baking it at 325 for 5 minutes and then 350 for about 35 to 40 minutes. And here we are, guys. The bread is done. I'm going to brush on some butter because I forgot to brush on some butter. So if you want, more color on the bread, you can brush on butter. You can spray on some sugar water. You can use egg wash. I forgot. So the bread isn't super brown, but that's fine. Okay, it is cooked. We just need to turn it out of the loaf tin. You don't want the bread to sit in the loaf tin. So turn it out onto a wire rack so the air can circulate, and let this cool down. Now I'm going to cut into this for you guys. It's still a little warm because, guys, it's hard to resist fresh bread. So this is what the texture is like. You'll notice that the crumb is tighter than a regular sandwich bread because with Hardo bread, we want it to be dense, okay? When I get my Hardo bread from whatever shop in Jamaica, it is not flexible. It's gonna be dense, okay? So this is what the texture is like. So even though it's soft, has a little moisture to it, you won't be able to just bend it around the same way you would for sandwich bread. This is what we're looking at, guys. It's still a little warm. It's best to let it cool overnight, but it's hard, guys. It's really hard to let that fresh bread just sit there with that smell. Oh my gosh. It's really hard. But this was really delicious. The only thing I would change, guys, is I would use a longer tin maybe with more room, because we did experience some cracking on the side, and I would put on my egg wash or my butter. I would try and remember next time. But yeah, that's the only thing I would change. This was scrumptious. What you want to do, guys, is to keep it covered so it doesn't dry out. You can put it in a bread bag, or I like to cover it with a kitchen towel until I put it in a bag. But gosh, this is so good, and this is the texture I want when I'm talking about hard dough bread. I don't want it to be like a Wonder Bread, okay? It's supposed to be dense. Look at this, right? That's what I like to see. Guys, there is no preservative in this, okay? So I recommend eating this within a day, the most a day and a half. Now I want to show you guys what the texture is like the next day, okay? So this is the next morning. All right, I'm gonna cut into this. This is what's left. I'll show you guys what it looks like. So you see the texture, really, really dense. I love that, and it's still soft. I just kept it in a Ziploc bag when it cooled down, guys. And if you are a Jamaican, you know that one of our favorite sandwiches is Hardo bread with some ripe plantain. Of course, you can add some fried egg if you want to, but this is so yummy. Now I'm just gonna cut into it, guys, so you can see what it would be like when you cut it versus when you tear it. So that is the texture, a very nice, close, tight crumb. So now if you want to try making Hardough bread, you can definitely give this recipe a try. I hope you guys enjoy it. I loved every bit of it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.